create an ever-growing pile of debt, then they couldn't have their war machine, they couldn't do anything else. They have to do that first. How does it work? Here's how it works. I need an assistant. Dominic, you're my assistant. Dominic is now a central banker. He doesn't need a microphone, he just... Okay, wait, what's he doing? You don't need to move a table. I don't know what's going on. This wasn't in the script. There is no script, wait. No, I need Dominic, seriously. Yeah, I do. All right, Dominic is a banker, and I'm a government. He's holding money, excuse me, he's holding a bond, I'm holding money. In order for this thing to happen, he can't have any money, he the government, unless he hands me that bond. Now, I take money that I have an exclusive monopoly to produce at interest, and I say, Mr. Government, Switzerland, or no, bad choice, I don't know, Denmark, I'll pick one out. Here's the only way you're going to finance your operations, pay your welfare, pay the pensions to your public employees, everything you do, unless you take money in circulation out in taxes. If you want to borrow, and most governments borrow every day, you've got to take this money, and you only get this money if you give me this bond. And that literally is the essence of the whole thing. If I cannot get that government in debt to me and make it do my bidding, then it's a sovereign government. If he decides to tell me to jump off the edge of the Alps, he's going to print his own money interest-free, then I'm done for. I can no longer run the world. But I, the banker, I care not who writes the laws as long as I issue the money, as long as I get interest-bearing bonds from that government. So that's the other thing I want you to take away with you today, regardless of other arguments and details about monetary creation, monetary policy. That's the essence of it. If I can get that government in debt to me, the banker, and I'm David Rockefeller of Chase Manhattan, or I'm whatever banker, Ben Bernanke, so on and so forth, then I've got him. It doesn't matter who writes his laws, I've got him. And so the Bilderbergers have all these bankers there for a reason. The bankers aren't just there to help eat the caviar and drink the wine and, you know, do their child sex trafficking or whatever it is they do for kicks. The bankers are there because they're the most important part of this. They're the ones that enter the digits into the ledger. They run the machine. They drive the world rule by creating money, by attaching interest to creating credit and money out of nothing, just willing it into existence. And so that's the main engine that doesn't just drive Bilderberg, but drives the whole engine of world rule, of globalization. They collateralize everything. They see a body of water and they say, let's privatize it. They see a nation that has its own oil and they say, we have to go in and steal their oil, bomb their country and seize their assets. And if you're a national leader that doesn't want them to do that, you're put on NATO's to-bomb list. You know, it's literally that brutal. There's a Pentagon strategist that wrote an article, oh, what magazine was it? At any rate, his name is Thomas Barnett. And the article basically explained that the purpose of globalization, or the mean-spirited, brutal way that they bring the global world into a consolidated state, is by defining two things: core nations and gap nations. If you're a core nation, you're part of the global commons. You're part of the club. You're integrated into the NWO. But if you're a gap nation, maybe you run your own oil, maybe you produce your own money interest-free, maybe you're pretty sovereign in a lot of ways, maybe you're not a member of the EU like Switzerland, or not a member of NATO like Switzerland. You've got some part of your being that's not part of the global matrix, not part of the central regime. So Thomas Barnett, the Pentagon strategist, said that military force wars would be fought simply to annex nations into the core. The purpose of all military operations, therefore, would simply be to force everyone into the NWO at the barrel or the point of a gun. And I think he was right. I think he was chastised a little, this Barnett, punished, that is, for reporting this in such a frank and candid way. But that's, in essence, what they're doing. Libya is not part of the game plan, so they're going to be forced in. Yugoslavia, some 10, 11, 12 years ago, same thing. You might have a leader who starts thinking for himself, and if they also use other means, as many of us know. They use these austerity measures. If they don't use military measures, they use a more subtle economic warfare, bringing Greece to its knees, trying to bring Ireland to its knees, Portugal, Spain. But Switzerland, and this is what I want to kind of summarize my thoughts with, America, in many ways, I'm sorry to say, might be a little too far gone. And not maybe in all respects, but Switzerland has something where the people here, at least to some extent, act as an extended legislature. They don't allow elected politicians to make each and every decision all the time. Representative government has become something of a joke, really. In the US, you elect a congressman. As soon as he's elected, that's basically the last you see of him. They legislate until they drop. They don't even come up for air. They're voting at 4 in the morning on bills that you couldn't read in 100 years. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. The constituents that they represent are just corporations. The constituency is the corporate world. The people are on the outside looking in, if we can take our nose off the grindstone long enough to do it. It's despicable. It's disgusting. Economic conscription, meaning that you create an economy where there's so few jobs that your only option is to join the army to carry out the very processes I've already described. And it goes on and on and on. One brutal toppling of some nation after another. The U.S. having inherited apparently this imperial mandate from Britain. Britain used to be, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Now the sun never sets on the American Empire. It's the baton has been handed to America. But to kind of wind things up a little bit, Switzerland, with its direct democracy, with its belief in home rule and kind of a populist grassroots decision making, absolutely has to stay out of the European Union. If it's the last thing you do, keep this nation out of the EU, out of NATO. I don't care what you have to do, and I'll be here to help you do it, because here you have something to hang on to. The states, I'm sorry to say, there's almost nothing to grab onto. The Congress, in the states, they use the number of representatives, get this, 435, right? U.S. House, U.S. Senate 100. That's the ratio of congressmen to people from about 1930. The population of the U.S. in 1930 had 435 members of Congress, and now the population has more than doubled. We still have 435 members of Congress. A small group that can be easily corralled and manipulated, and I can count the good ones on one hand. And it's really a systemic problem. The American people have zero say in government affairs. Even at the local level, it's a very mixed bag. But at the state and national level, it is zero. I mean, it's not a little bit, it's zero. But what it would take to give us the kind of say that we describe or would like is almost beyond my comprehension. I don't know what it would require, what would have to happen to get that Congress to listen to the people at all. If the people speak up at town hall meetings, they're offended, the people are dragged out like they're terrorists. 9/11 is the day that changed everything in America. Now everything is a terrorist act. You raise your voice in an airport, you're targeted, you're marked or whatever, you're tagged. And it's getting really weird there, quite honest. But enough said about that. I just want Switzerland to resist what America could not resist, and that's this total centralization of decision making. Don't let them take that direct democracy away from you. Don't worry about this, a democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. That's not totally true. That's partially a red herring. You cannot let these elected officials make all your decisions. Let me tell you, it doesn't work. The people themselves have to retain initiatives, referendums, recalls, being able to dissolve a law without the legislature being able to do much, if anything, about it. Now, to summarize, the Bilderbergers have proven that conspiracy of the high and mighty is real. Switzerland's in a unique position to resist them due to the system that you've inherited. You've been at peace for what, 300, 400, 500 years? You have a non-interventionist foreign policy. Americans would only dream of this, even in the Ron Paul movement, to have a military that only defends its nation and doesn't go out searching for monsters to destroy, which is what America does worse than the Roman legions 10 times over. At any rate, now come the cheap plugs. All of this, of course, was a setup for cheap plugs now. But Countdown to Bilderberg, we've got some recent editions of American Free Press. I've only got a couple left, but I can tell you, if you talk to me afterwards, how to get our paper. These are some recent ones. Bilderberger's Dangerous. This is about Dominique Beitig's letter to the National Federal Council member, warning her of Bilderberg. And we can all applaud Dominique, I think, for what he tried to do. You know what I see in him? When I met him last December with my wife Angie, and then again last night, such a quiet spirit. He's soft-spoken and he's fearless. And he provides a great example, I believe, a great role model. I admire him very much. And this is just before Bilderberg, Countdown to Bilderberg. And we paid homage to David Rockefeller. It's the 20th anniversary since Rockefeller said that we are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. He's really being cagey here, isn't he? No, he's being very candid. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable, he says, to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries. There, now it sounds more evil if I talk that way. And that's actually, if it was him talking, he'd say, we are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times. He could talk about, you know. At any rate, yeah, my father was in oil and my grandfather, you know. Yeah, let's let your wheelchair roll down a steep hill, okay. But at any rate, we can be glad that the octogenarian tyrants like him and Hank Kissinger, if that's his real name, they say his accent isn't even really German. We can hope that they'll pass on to that great bank vault in the sky soon with the door closed.
They're going to the sky.
Yeah, they have to be buried face down. That's an old joke, so they know where they're going. Maybe that's not old here, but it's old in America. But anyway, it's a lot more could be said. There's others that want to talk. This is a great program. Thanks to WeAreChange Switzerland and others for putting this on. And my last cheap it gets worse. There's another cheap plug before I sing that parting song. And it's called the Bilderberg Files. I can tell you how to get this real cheap. And I sound like a peddler, I know. But this goes way back. It's a collection of American Free Press clippings and reports and congressional reports, all the way back to the beginning of this nefarious group. And so that's just stuff that AFP has in particular. Hello from Jim Tucker. He told me to tell you all hello. This is a good turnout, just like I would have expected. And let's salute the Bilderbergers for giving us the clear look that conspiracies are real, and therefore for being part of their own undoing. Because they've proven to us that the high and mighty conspire. They conspire in the open, I guess you'd say, which sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. At any rate, down with the Bilderbergers, up with freedom, and long live Swiss freedom. All right. And now, Dominique.